Right, today's session is entitled, as you can see, if you're in business, you're in sales, or how to overcome small business mentality. So this is, if you like, the pilot episode or the inaugural episode of a series of LinkedIn Live events that I'm going to be hosting, hopefully with a little bit more success on the technical side, over the next 6 weeks or so. And this is in the run up to the launch of my MX5 sales machine program, which launches on the 5th of April. So over the coming weeks, we're going to be focusing on, basically each week is going to be focused on one of 5 core components of your business's sales machine. So as you can see here, mindset, market, message, medium, and method. So I would ask, please do attend as many of these sessions as you can, because each week, each session is going to be building on what came before. This is week 1, of course. So today we're kicking off with mindset. So mindset, attitude, mentality, these are things that underpin everything that you do in your business, really. Your mindset, it can make you feel 10 feet tall, or on the flip side, it can paralyze you, with fear and self-doubt. Not to play on it too much, but especially when technology fails you. So I'd say this is especially true in sales, when it comes to getting more clients, approaching new people, your mindset is so important. So to kick off, I want to ask you guys a question, and to those of you that can hear me, please put your answers in the chat here. So what is sales to you? What does sales mean to you? I'm going to be talking about sales through this, and if I'm going to have any success convincing you that, if you're a small business owner, you are in sales, then I think we should probably start by defining terms. So just a quick game of word association here. Like I say, those of you that can hear me, do me a favor, type into the chat quickly the first thing that comes to mind when I say sales or selling or salesperson, even better. Just 30 seconds, put in the chat the first thing that comes to mind. Right, someone said to serve. Good answer, actually. I like that. Anybody else? And please be honest, I won't be, I might be offended a little bit, depends on what you say, but no trolling, please. Anyone else? Amanda, yes, this is being recorded, so I'll sort you out the link after. So Amanda said, give value, give solutions to problems. Safe said, persuasion. I like this. You guys are a bit more generous than I thought you would be, actually. I'm going to show you what I thought the first impression some of you might get. This is my my sales nightmare vision board, if you like. Yeah, I know this is a bit of a cardinal sin, all this text on slide decks, but hopefully you get the point here. These are just some examples of recent, actually quite recent LinkedIn messages and an email that I've received. Some of this should look fairly familiar to some of you. But I think in all seriousness, though, sales, at least to my mind, at its most fundamental and elementary level, is this. It's the transference of belief. So to explain this, so for example, I believe that my product, my service, my company can help you. And, as a result of this belief, this carries over to what I do. So I have a certain passion and enthusiasm, and this shines through. It shows in what I say, what I do. And I think really the sales part of this it's about imparting that passion, transferring that belief from me to you, or from you to your potential client, so that the other person believes that working with you will help them achieve a positive outcome. So I'm going to be digging a little bit deeper into this concept tomorrow, actually. On tomorrow's session, we've got a very special guest. I don't know if he's here. Ashley Griffiths, if you are there, please say hello. He's going to be joining me to discuss why belief is the starting point of success. But I just wanted to touch on it here, today a little bit as well. So I think for now, I'll move on. I want to talk, as the title suggests, to this event about small business mentality. So small business mentality, this is something that I think a lot of us are guilty of at times. There's just so much to think about when you're starting a business or running a business. And I think maybe the best way for me to explain it is to give some examples of how it usually manifests. So first off, really, really important here. I think if we're honest, a lot of us are winging it when it comes to sales. You know, when it comes to finding new clients and having those conversations, we kind of make it up as we go along. I mean, yeah, we might reach out to a few people here or there. We might be attending some networking groups, that sort of thing. But do we really have a clear, repeatable process for taking someone from being a complete stranger through to a paying client? So just a few, I suppose, thought exercises, if you like, here. I'll throw a few questions at you just to get you thinking. Do you know, say you have an initial conversation with a potential client, do you know what the next step, the next 2, 3, 4 steps looks like after that first conversation? Or another example, what are the common objections that you face, from your target market, the people you speak to? Have you mapped that out so that you can anticipate them and figure out, right, how do I overcome them? Or maybe even stop them from coming up altogether. And also, what are some of the key questions? Have you thought about this? What are the key questions that you can ask that will consistently get your prospects to, just sit up a little bit straighter and say, I hadn't thought of it like that. So another point here, small business owners, I think sometimes we show a lack of self-awareness. What I mean by this is we don't put a lot of thought into things like our place in the market. Am I saying the same things as everybody else? Do I sound like everyone else? Do I look like everyone else? And sometimes we don't put much thought into how we're perceived when we introduce ourselves, when we're giving out our little elevator pitch, our spiel, or whatever it is. I mean, I know that there's, you see posts on social now, people say, well, it doesn't matter what people think about you. You should be yourself. And yes, I think that's true to some extent. But when you're trying to grow a business, when you're trying to win a new client, it does matter what people think. Like it really does. Yes, be yourself. But I think that only carries so far, because ultimately it is about the other person. So this also plays into our branding, or our lack of branding. And just to be clear, when I say branding, I don't just mean our logo, our color scheme on our website, or like the images that we put make on Canva to put on social media, that sort of stuff. It's more than that. If you look at great brands, the top brands, you'll see that there's this, there's this whole ethos around everything that they do. There's certain language, certain phrasing they use. There's just a unique way of doing things. I mean, this is a probably bit of a rubbish example, but think about McDonald's with the drive-through. I mean, it's been emulated by like everybody now. You can get Costa drive-through if you want, but that's an experiential thing. It's not just about the product. It's not just about the brand. It's it's about the whole experience of doing business with you. And I think for individuals, it's probably about letting our personality shine through to some extent, warts and all, for good and ill, but really putting thought into what is that buying experience, what is that sales process like for the other person. There's a great coach, his name's Richard Litvin, and he talks about going wide versus going weird. And I would say go weird any day of the week, if you really want to stand out. I think you need to be smart with it. It depends on who you're dealing with. I'm hoping I won't offend anyone by saying this, but for example, if you're dealing with maybe accountants or legal firms, maybe you don't want to go too kooky, but I'd say don't be afraid to get a bit quirky with things, have a sense of humor and ultimately have some fun with it as well. So some people are still saying that they can't see or they can't hear me. If anybody can just note this down, yes, this is being recorded. So I'm going to post this up after the fact so you can still check this out. So moving on to another point here, another thing that we do a lot, we focus on delivery, right? We focus on serving our existing clients, but we kind of neglect keeping up on sales activities. And this, I've seen this, like it creates this feast and famine scenario where you're not consistently adding new opportunities to the pipeline. You're not topping up that funnel. And, you know, some of you can probably relate to this, where you spend a few weeks or a couple of months, you're working with a client on a project or a number of projects, whatever it is. But all the while you're focusing over here, you're not lining up new opportunities. You know, so when the projects end, suddenly there's this gap to fill. It's like, oh crap, what am I going to do now? You know, I've got no work lined up. So your income does this, and you ride this emotional roller coaster, this feast and famine thing. Not ideal, not ideal. And so I think the lesson here is, even when the going is really good and you feel like it's never going to end, you should still always be setting time aside consistently for prospecting, for building new relationships, and, you know, adding, as I say, potential deals to the pipeline. And I think ultimately what this points to is short-term thinking. So just a side note, if it's any consolation, you know, this is really common even in more established businesses. Even, you know, it's a common trope in sales teams, that the management, I've seen this so many times over the years, management is always chasing after the next month, the next quarterly target, and the overall sort of long-term growth and the overall health of the business gets neglected because, as I say, there's just this real like myopic short-term focus. So yeah, so that's small business mentality, and it does hold us back. It leaves us with this kind of scattergun approach to finding new clients, and our messaging, the way we communicate, it can be a bit boring, a bit generic, and ultimately, as I've said, this leads to an empty pipeline, or a sparse pipeline, shall we say. So sales isn't the S word necessarily. There is another S word though. So, and it's not what you're thinking. So it's not that S word. What do you guys think it is? Get just quickly in the chat. There's another S word, which is, I want to say, like a sin in business of any size, really. What do you guys think it is? Any takers? Any guesses? Okay, I'll tell you. Shortcuts. So, right, what do I mean by this? Well, I'll give you a few examples. So, thinking that you can send generic connect and pitch requests on LinkedIn, adding someone and then just bombarding them with 6 paragraphs and 12 bullet points as a sales pitch. That's a shortcut. Like, that really is a shortcut. What about rocking up to a client meeting or a networking group without doing any homework, without preparing what you're going to say and how you're going to say it? That's a shortcut. What about my personal favorite, vomiting your sales pitch over someone instead of being curious? Amanda said service. No, yeah, shortcuts. So vomiting your sales pitch over someone, as I say, instead of, showing a bit of curiosity, asking open-ended, insightful questions that you've prepared ahead of time. That's a shortcut, right? So I'm hoping that some of you are starting to see that the problem isn't that sales is inherently this gross, cringy thing that some of us make it out to be. The problem really is that sales and selling, it's just like any other skill, any other profession, right? So you guys have your areas of expertise, you have your skill sets, and to get to where you are, it's taken a level of planning, preparation, practice, education, all of that stuff. And sales is no different, so when we don't put the work in up front, really that is when we come across as salesy. So, sales, is it a dirty word? I don't think so. I really don't. It's not about manipulating people. It's not about pressuring people. It's none of that, you know. And another thing I would say is revenue is the lifeblood of your business. And so being able to sell that belief that we talked about, the belief in what you do and how you can help someone, that is how you keep the lifeblood flowing in your business. Okay, so just hold up for a second. Let's stop here. So I'm going quite fast here. I've covered off a few points. I probably should have said, you know, have a pen and paper at the start. So I'm hoping some of you guys are taking notes, but it does raise a lot of questions because for me, I when I started thinking about this stuff, I found it quite overwhelming at first when I realized that, you know, there's a lot of room for improvement in my approach to selling, because there's things like, who should I be speaking to? What do I say? You know, where do you even start with building a sales process if you don't come from that kind of background? So as I said at the start, this is the first in a series of events that I'm going to be doing. And I think my goal here is really just to get you guys thinking a little bit differently, you know, just to remove some of the misconceptions, some of the self-doubt that you might have around selling, and you know, how you come across. Well, good. Amanda's taking lots of notes. Good. Glad to hear it. Leading by example there. Love it. Yeah. So as I say, it's really, I'm just trying to get you guys to think a little bit different. And I think, although on a personal note, it can be a bit overwhelming at first, I think the key here really is just to think in terms of small incremental improvements. So I grabbed this off my LinkedIn feed the other day, actually. I think it's brilliant. If you can get even 1% better each day in a specific area, I mean, look at those numbers, right? The bottom line there. You are 37, 38 times better, right? And if you can really focus in on a specific area, just in no time at all, right? The compound effect, it comes into play. And you see it very quickly. You see this in your business. You see it with, I don't know, take weight loss, for example. So you might look at it and think, man, I've got like so much weight to lose. But if you can even lose a pound, half a pound a week, or whatever it is, after 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, it's not a very long time, but you very quickly start to see the difference. So this, you know, reflects in your business. It will ultimately reflect in your income as well. And I'd say, just to go back to specific areas, you know, think about some of the areas that you could focus on. So it might be things like asking better questions. What about, I don't know, just being clearer on your desired outcome before you go into a conversation with a potential client. And it could be something as simple as just being a bit more consistent with new business activity, you know, blocking out some time for whatever it is, connecting with people, making calls, sending out some emails, some LinkedIn messages, that sort of thing. So what I would say is just a bit of a suggestion here. Maybe just take a bit of time to think about the areas where you maybe struggle the most, or where, if you're brutally honest with yourself, where, you know, I really could be doing a bit more there. And what is just one thing that you can do today, right? Well, not right now. Wait till this is over. Not right now, in 10, 15 minutes, that you can do today to improve. So to finish up, let's just look at a few principles quickly, just some sort of takeaways that you can take from this. So firstly, if you're in business, I don't care what you say, you are in sales. You know, search your heart. You know it to be true. And it's a good thing. It's a really good thing, because you get to share your passion with other people. And if you're good at what you do, you get to make a real difference in their lives, right? You get to take an active interest in other people, in their, I don't know, their pains, their fears and challenges, their goals or objectives. And you can be a part of helping them to overcome those things or achieve those things. So it's a good thing. But you do need a process. You know, you need a plan. Yes, you can wing it to some extent, but really, if we're honest, is that going to produce consistent, repeatable results over the long haul? Are you going to know what's working? Are you going to know what isn't working? How are you going to know those things? And for example, are you going to know, let's say, how many people do you need to speak to on average to gain a new client? How do you start to get those numbers? And this is so important. It's so important because once you can start homing in and getting that data, like, it's really empowering you. For example, let's think of some numbers here. So let's say, for example, I need to speak to 10 people, 10 new people in order to get a qualified meeting with a potential client. And let's say I need 3 of those meetings to get a new client. So I need 10 people to get a meeting and 3 meetings to get a new client. So then I know roughly that, hopefully I'm doing the maths right here. Please correct me if this is off, but it basically means I need to speak to, on average, about 30 new people to get 1 new client. So based on that, I know exactly how much activity I need to do in order to hit my goals. Super powerful, really is. And related to that, measure the things that really matter. Remember, revenue. I said revenue is the lifeblood of your business, but another thing about revenue is that it is downstream of activity, downstream of your activity. So who was it further up in the chat? I think it was Safe who said that sales is persuasion was a word that came to mind. And I would say influencing is part of it. So sales is about influencing others, but really you can't control other people. You can't control the final outcome of a conversation with a prospect, with a potential client. So focus in on the things that you can control and measure those things. So I'll throw a few examples at you. How many new connections are you making each day with people that fit into your target market? How many meaningful conversations are you having in a day, in a week, in a month? And getting really granular. How many emails are you sending? How many messages are you sending? And out of all of that, how much effort are you putting into researching and preparing before you speak to people? These are all things that you can control. So, and another one here, actually, how diligently, so follow-ups are huge. How consistent are you with following up with people? It could be someone you spoke to yesterday, someone last month, last year even. I don't know if maybe some of you guys are familiar with the concept of acres of diamonds. I love this, right? I'm gonna completely butcher this, but basically the idea is that success and wealth are right in your backyard. So imagine you buy a plot of land. It's rough, it's rocky, nothing wants to grow there, and it's in the arse end of nowhere, so no one's interested. The value is like rock bottom. That plot of land might sell for peanuts, but all the while, just a few inches below the topsoil, there are acres upon acres of precious diamonds. So what is that to you? It could be your existing network. All those people that you spoke to over the last week or the last year, the last month, whatever, people that you haven't followed up with, all those people that maybe they said maybe or not right now, they weren't quite ready, or maybe it was the people that you had a good chat with them, but you never asked the hard question, you never probed and asked for their business. That could all be your acres of diamonds. You never know what opportunity could be like right in your back pocket or just waiting for you if you just take the initiative and reach out. So bit of a tangent there, but I'll get on to the final thing here. Final point. What I would say is the most important thing of all is this, and I think some of you touched on this when I said what is sales to you. It's this. So final slide, and I think this speaks for itself. The guy on the left, he is a salesman. Sorry, it's opposite. He's not a salesman. He's a chancer. He's not a salesman. He's a chancer. He's self-centered, and in the long run, he'll fail. You might get some quick wins, some some wins in the short term, but in the long run, he's going to fail. But the guy on the right, okay, he's not guaranteed success, but he's definitely on the right track. He really is. And this is what it's all about. Selling done well is about coaching, it's about educating, and providing insight and helping your client, helping people realize their blind spots and guiding them, not pushing them, not pressuring them, but guiding them to make their own decision at something that's win-win for everyone involved. So that's it. Sales, I don't think it's a dirty word. I really don't. I think quite the opposite, in fact. I think there's tons of value in it, and it's something that you really need to, it's a skill that you need to hone, regardless of whether you're, a solo entrepreneur or, running a huge business, something you need to be aware of. So in closing, I'll leave you with a quote. It's short and sweet, from the awesome Wes Schaefer. Now go sell something. So cheers, guys. Really appreciate that. Any questions? Those of you that can have actually been able to hear me. Any questions or comments, feedback? So StreamYard doesn't seem to be letting me paste these links in, so I'll put them on LinkedIn. Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate that. So doesn't look like there's any questions. So yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate you showing up for that. I think that's probably about it then. Okay, well, if you haven't already, go and grab some lunch. And oh, cheers, Jackie. Appreciate that. Yeah, well, I'll let you guys get on. I'm hungry now, so I'm going to go and grab some lunch. But we've got, as I mentioned, we've got Ashley Griffiths coming on tomorrow. We're going to talk about belief and why it's so fundamental to success. And then on Thursday, I'm going to be talking about 5 practical mindset shifts that will supercharge your sales results. So do check that out. I'm going to have to check out the audio and the video, figure out why that's not working. But yeah, do come along. I'm really looking forward to digging a bit deeper into some of these ideas. So cheers, guys. I'll see you on the next one. All the best. Bye-bye.